the Northwest Weather Podcast from Fox 13 Seattle.
Welcome, everyone, to the Pacific Northwest Weather Podcast. I'm meteorologist Claire Anderson.
And I'm meteorologist Ilona McCauley.
And we are talking about the latest forecast, the latest weather we have been through here at Fox 13. It has been a busy week, Ilona. I need more coffee and a nap.
I think all of us do. Yeah, I feel like we have been on nonstop. I mean, let's go through what we've seen just in the last week alone. This is just a rough tally, okay? So since the first atmospheric river event started last week.
It's been almost 2 full weeks of this.
Absolutely. So here's where we're at. 2 flash flood warnings, more than a dozen flood warnings for our area rivers, flood watches, 3 wind advisories, 2 high wind warnings.
Which we don't see very often for Western Washington.
Right. 1 blizzard warning, also very rare.
Yes.
2 winter weather advisories, and then specifically for some of the coastal things that were going on, which we hardly even had a chance to really talk about because we were dealing with so much flooding here. High surf advisories, coastal flood warning, and even a storm warning as of last night because of those winds that were coming in through the strait.
It was wild. So at some point, every person in Western Washington was impacted by a weather event. And I know there are so many people dealing with flooded homes, flooded roads. I mean, it just breaks my heart because Christmas, the holidays, all the holidays are happening right now. And people are dealing with problems.
Yeah, and what was so interesting to me is that I had an opportunity to go out in the field, which, I haven't seen the scope of the flooding here in parts of Western Washington up until recently. And I can tell you that the pictures just cannot even do it justice until you get out there and actually see it for yourself. The, just these raging rivers and sadly the pumpkins floating at Stalker Farms and all these places that you visit with your families, when they're dry and everyone's having fun. It was really, really hard to see. But on the flip side of that, I also saw the best in humanity with like neighbors coming out to help neighbors, sandbag businesses and, historical downtown Mount Vernon. And neighbors helping to get their families out of the home. So I just applaud for people to rally and help out other people during this.
I mean, people in the Pacific Northwest really are great people. We take a lot of pride in where we are from. So this is silver lining, I think, for sure. All right, let's talk about some of the weather we have been seeing lately. And our first graphic, let's talk about the wind because Ilona, last night when I was going to bed, it was so windy out there, and we were expecting this, the high wind warning, the wind advisory, some of our peak winds, high.
Yeah. So I spent the evening up at Snoqualmie Pass, and we were breaking down and getting ready to come back down into the Seattle area shortly after 10 o'clock, and that was about the time that the winds were ramping up there. So up at Snoqualmie Pass, 82 miles an hour, but then just on the other side of the freeway, of course, is the Alpental ski area. Over 100-mile-an-hour wind gusts last night.
And, of course, the ski resorts aren't open because it's been so warm. There haven't been any skiers. But if it was, the night skiing, it would have been closed. There would have been nobody out there. Whidbey Island hit 71, 63 Wenatchee, and 58 mile-per-hour winds in Hoquiam. It was strong. And then heading into tomorrow, we also have a wind advisory because it's still breezy out there. And that goes into effect tomorrow morning at 11 a.m. through 7 o'clock Thursday.
Yeah, so we're not done with the winds just yet. And another thing to kind of keep in mind is that the ground is still pretty saturated. So we had numerous trees come down last night. Obviously, a possibility we could be watching for a few more to come down as we get into Thursday with some of those gusty winds. And, we're already dealing with power outages as it is.
It really is. And then out towards eastern and central Washington, Wenatchee, there's the high wind warning. And that continues until 4 o'clock today with those wind gusts up to 65 miles per hour all the way out through Spokane. So if you are driving across the state, winds are still very strong out there. All right, let's take a look at our next forecast. So we've got the winter weather advisory. And it has just been so snowy it has not been snowy, but last night with the snow and the wind, we were really watching that closely, that blizzard warning.
Yeah, so during my time here, I've lived in Western Washington for over 10 years now. I've only seen 2 blizzard warnings go into effect.
Yeah.
And last night was one of those.
Yeah.
Just because of, again, the whiteout conditions with the blowing snow that was falling because of those high winds. So, pass travel was definitely discouraged. It was also, US 2 is still closed, so that's not even an option right now. But, of course, skiers, snowboarders are rejoicing because all of the snow washed away on area ski resorts with these atmospheric rivers. So we got to rebuild all of that we lost, plus the snowpack, because we got to get set up for next summer.
I mean, this will be good. It'll be nice to see the snow in the passes, like you said, and a little bit more winter driving conditions. Okay, I also want to go back, of course, to the actual flooding, because we talked about this, and I want to go back in these graphics. So we still have the flood watch for parts of Western Washington. The good news is, see some of those boxes that are now bare, those have expired, because earlier in the week, and of course last week, those were all in the dark green colors. The flood warnings are still in effect for all of those rivers.
Yeah, so, and this too, we've actually started to see, like you said, some of those getting trimmed back and sort of allowing them to drop. Even the area rivers that were expected to reach major flood stage again for some locations between today and tomorrow, even those are coming down a little bit from the original forecast, still flooding. I mean, still running super rapidly, but luckily staying below that major flooding threshold. So that's great news.
I have those numbers, Ilona, and I want to show in just a moment. So we have flood warnings. I want to zoom in because, of course, Pacific yesterday was under that flash flood warning. And you can see the topography in this map. See where it kind of goes into those valleys. You can actually see where the river comes down from the Green River. We have the Green River going north, and that's what we saw the issue with Tukwila, and then the White River kind of goes to the south, and that was what we saw for Pacific. You go a little bit further again north, you see out towards Enumclaw, the Plateau, Federal Way, SeaTac. There's a flood warning there. You go up towards North Bend, and you're going to deal with the Snoqualmie
River. Yeah, that's right. Always, looks super impressive when you get out to Snoqualmie Falls, but you also have to remember about those people that are downstream from there as you get into Carnation and Duval and some of those low-lying spots there as well.
Yep, and then this is the Skokomish River, Gold Bar, Woods Creek, down towards Everett. So, of course, we're still watching that flood warning continuing. And then, of course, the Skagit River, and you were up there.
Yeah, this is one that we've been talking about now for a good week or so, especially with that wall that they put up, getting a really good test, of course, from those rising waters last week. And the wall remains constructed there in parts of Mount Vernon. But a lot of those fields, those agricultural fields, took a pretty big hit. I did hear that the tulip fields, though, have been spared. So
thank goodness.
I think I was able to read that somewhere online that they were posting that they were actually in fairly good shape. So that's some good news there.
Yeah, and I do want to, like you said, here's a look at the river levels overview. So the cresting for all these rivers are either happening this afternoon or late tonight, which is good because some of them, like Skagit at Mount Vernon, was looking to crest tomorrow morning. So it looks like things have really slowed down and calmed down. They're still rising right now, but that's because they're peaking this afternoon or evening.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, we just want to reiterate, even though that these are not going to be heading into the major flood zone category, there are still numerous areas that are flooded. And we're talking even just specifically like roadways and things like that. Please, even though it's, dry outside right now, do not attempt to drive through those areas. They're still closed for a reason.
Yeah, and there was unfortunately a fatality because someone drove around the closed signs, and that's the scary part, is that they drove off the road, and you can't see where the road is, and you go off, and then you sink.
And then you're in a ditch.
Exactly.
And you can't get out.
There was an emergency management person that said, you don't know sometimes when the flood water comes through, hey, this is the road, I know it's straight, and I can go straight, but some of the water could have damaged that road that is typically there also, so it's not just driving off the road, there's problems underneath. And I saw someone ski-doing.
Yeah, no, not advised.
My thought was, there could be fences in there could be cars, there could be buildings, and it looks, they're doing it for this, looks cool, but it's so dangerous because you don't know what's under there. You fall off, very dangerous. So we say turn around, don't drown. And it sounds, silly because we say it all the time, but it's a real thing, and we can't stress it enough.
Absolutely, yeah.
All right, well, Ilona, let's take a look. I want to pull up the 7-day real quick so we can show everybody that we are looking at some showers still for this week, but maybe not as wet.
No. Luckily, it looks like we're finally going to return to what would be, quote unquote, a normal December.
Normal in December in Western Washington is rain, right?
So, yeah, some rain in the lowlands. And as we mentioned, finally getting some rounds of snow up in the higher elevations to help us out there. But yeah, I mean, temperatures are going to be way closer to average for this time of year versus another stat for you. I heard we had 12 consecutive days of 50 plus degree temperatures. So a huge, like 2.5,
I saw saw that.
A week and a half of unusually warm temperatures. So today that breaks, and then you can see we're going to start to trend back a little closer into those 40s.
And it was nice to walk outside, but I'll take December when it's December. And the other thing too that I think is a really good thing to think about is that with this lowering snow levels, all the rain now is going to fall in the mountains as snow, and it's going to reduce the impacts to the river. So that is a good thing. And, my mom she's coming back over for Christmas, which is next week, over the passes. And so you're going to have to start keeping a close eye on the passes, which of course we will. But back to more of our regularly scheduled December into early January.
We'll take it.
All right. Well, I hope everyone stays safe out there, and has a great holiday season as we kind of end up the rest of the year. And
yeah, we'll continue. We'll monitor it, and of course, we'll keep you posted on how things are changing here as we get closer into the upcoming holidays.
All right, see you later.
Northwest Weather is available wherever you get your podcast.